I guess we're probably done here. Although we don't have any way of setting up getting our food delivery that we wanted. So, not sure what to do about that. Let's see. Boxmaster is awaiting orders regarding the fate of this world. Okay. So once we get back to our ship, we can hopefully do something. Then let's go back to the ship. We now have control over the granaries of Janus. The promise of help given to the liege of Footfall, Vladimir Tokara, can now be fulfilled should the rogue trader so desire. Iconoclast send provision to Footfall, giving its inhabitants new hope and asserting their right to rule over the station. Or Dogmatic do not send supplies to Footfall, allowing the righteous Incendia Corda to restore Imperial order on the lawless station. Isn't Corda working with the, like, criminal organization? Like, I guess they're righteous because they're a rogue trader, and rogue traders have the authorization from the Emperor. But also, we didn't actually get to hear anything about what Corda wanted, because the moment they started telling us to not help out Footfall, they immediately were shot by the Anvers Guild. No, I think we're going to send provisions, even though it's not the dogmatic option. Just starving out the station so that they're forced to give in to the demands of Corda, which we don't know what they are. Feels bad. Well, if this is true, if the goal is to restore Imperial order on the lawless station, basically, if the people of Footfall are out of control and are not giving proper deference to the Imperium and to the Emperor, and giving them food will have them, the general people, rule themselves rather than allowing the proper leaders established by the God Emperor to rule. And yeah, I can understand that, because we don't want to encourage lawlessness and crime and all that. I wish we could have heard the rest of Corda's demand to have a better idea of what it was exactly that he was trying to pull off. Because as far as we could tell, it was just, hey, I'm trying to work a really good deal with the liege, Tokara, and he's not yet willing to give in, so let's just keep starving the station for a while longer, and eventually he'll be forced to give in to my high demands of cost. I'm like, that doesn't feel good to me. So I think I'm gonna again go with the Iconoclast option. We're gonna send provisions because we don't know enough about what Corda was wanting, and I don't see a point of starving a station without information of why. Oh, that gave me 15. That is a sizable chunk. And 5 profit factor. The inhabitants of Footfall Station will praise the rogue trader who spared them the painful choice between starvation and succumbing to the reign of Incendia Corda. To welcome the new rogue trader, the Adeptus Mechanicus' planetary office brought to the ship an offering of several versatile macro combines, ancient machines whose carcasses had been found on Janus and carefully restored. The sacred steel titans will serve the Von Valentius dynasty. Cool, we got more extractiums. So we're back up to 5. I still don't think I'm going to waste it on the tiny amount of plasteel we had here. 3, yeah. Ooh, and we can start a project here on Janus. Okay. Many planetary aristocrats have stained themselves with incompetence and lost their titles. A new nobility of chem princes will be created out of subjects who prove capable in science and governance. Those who succeed in wisely managing the agri-complex fiefs, strictly maintaining obedience among the commoners, and increasing the output of rare organic chemicals will keep their positions. It would give us more security, chemicals, and provisions. We would get 5 tiers of repentance. All creatures that enter the area of effect created by this grenade must pass toughness, strength, and willpower tests with a penalty, with a minus penalty. On a failed toughness test, they become blinded. On a failed strength test, they become slowed. On a failed willpower test, they are disturbed. Each stack inflicts a minus 10 penalty to any willpower or fellowship tests. They would give us 5 and it would replenish. Interesting. I was thinking by Kim Princes that they were talking about basically starting back up the Slanesh worship of like, oh yeah, using chemicals and having them just be decadent and hedonistic. And I was like, what? But no. In the days of mutiny, many among Janus's pampered nobility fled the planet. They are to be replaced with more enterprising servants. A small but ambitious ultra-requisitor syndicate belonging to the Casablanca mission has contacted the rogue trader with lowly requests to entrust the governance of Janus to them. With Vladimir Tokar pushing all of his competitors out of the cold trade, the ultra-requisitors, that is a weird word, are hoping to change their line of business and become dignified aristocrats serving House Von Valentius. So Casablanca is the criminal organization that is big into the cold trade of xeno artifacts. So of course they want to go to Janus because Janus has tons of Eldari stuff around. They would give me a Drukhari weapon, Starblight. I really should consider giving our Eldari the Drukhari weapon proficiency at some point, just to open up options. This rifle inflicts fatigued and slowed on the target, and does toxic damage over time, and still has a high damage, hit chance, and armor penetration. That's a very good weapon. Profit factor, complacency, we'd get Xenotech and provisions. Not thrilled with any of that. Janus is ailing, and who better to cure it than the sage genitors of Magos Biologus? Management of the agri-complexes will be taken away from the aristocrats and handed over to the servants of the Omnissiah, who will synchronize their operations for the benefit of the planet. Okay. This will give us some stimulants, which I probably will never think to use. Grants plus 10 bonus to strength, toughness, and agility, and inflicts a minus 10 penalty on intelligence, perception, and willpower for 2 rounds. So use it on our front lines to just get some awesome bonuses. Bonus to efficiency and tons of provisions, which this is a world built for provisions. And efficiency isn't bad. Affects the amount of resources produced by the colony, increasing it by 10% for each point of efficiency. So we'd get even more provisions long term. Or security. Affects the ability for the colony to cope with negative events on its own. So do we give the planetary governance to people on the planet, not nobles, but just people on the planet who show themselves capable of science and governance, and ask them to make rare chemicals? Or do we give it to the tech priests? I'm thinking the tech priests. They're very logical, capable, can improve efficiency, get things on track, even though I don't particularly care about the stimulants. You would? What, I would give it to the tech priests? Of course. Yeah, we're going with the tech priests rather than just people capable of science and governance, because tech priests are also knowledgeable of science and governance. I don't really care about this grenade either. And one chemical and one provision feels so insignificant. Like long term when we're trying to fill out requests. 4 provisions is something people could actually want and use. So yeah, we're gonna go for the tech priests. And once that's done, then we have other options available. We'll look into those when the time is right. We do have our other planet. They're still working on, right, the thousand-faced relic, where they're scarring 1,000 people. Okay, let's go back to our ship and talk to people. Particularly our new Xeno. But we'll just do the rounds talking to everyone on the bridge. Abelard.
Lord Captain. Lord Captain.
Okay, he didn't have anything to say. Heinrichs?
To what do I owe this visit?
Okay, he actually has quite a bit to say. You want to discuss the nature of your mission.
Yes, but not here. I wouldn't want our conversation to be gossip fodder on the bridge and in the officers' mess.
Okay. I assume we're going up to my room? Yes. Heinrich nods slightly, and thank you for finding an opportunity to talk. I trust now would be a good time to explain the reason for my return aboard your ship. I welcome the chance to assist the Inquisition with its inquiries, Van Kalux, or I do not object to you personally, but I find the continuous presence of an Inquisition agent at my side slightly unnerving. Or you wouldn't be on my ship if I had any say in the matter. No, I welcome the chance to assist the Inquisition with its inquiries, Van Kalux. Lord Captain, your enthusiasm is commendable. The interrogator smiles, but his eyes remain cold. To business, then. The cult of the Final Dawn. The madmen preach their heretical doctrine amongst the denizens of the Koronus Expanse and instigate crimes against the throne and humanity. One such crime took place in your protectorate. The Lord Inquisitor considered it necessary to have one of his acolytes accompany the rogue trader on the voyage into the corrupted region. I also need to meet with one of my observers on the capital world of your domain. Chaos cult in my protectorate. Heinrichs, are you laying an accusation against my dynasty? The Lord Inquisitor mentioned in his letter that he is willing to show lenience towards my actions that would otherwise be interpreted as radical. You have spies on the Von Valencia's world? Of course they do. Lord Imperium succeeded. Why would Ordo Xenos agents investigate a chaos cult? Very good question. I want to know more about this cult of the Final Dawn. I've already agreed to give you place aboard my ship. What else? No, why would the Ordo Xenos agents be investigating a chaos cult? You are well versed in how the Inquisition is organized, Ignatius. Yes. Initially, our arrival in the Koronus Expanse was dictated by the need to fight Xenos, but there is more. The cult is tangentially related to my main specialization. Perhaps I will be able to reveal the full truth someday, but right now I ask you to display humility and patience. Are you laying accusations against my dynasty? Chaos treads softly, Ignatius. The main danger of secret cults and sects is that they are like seeds. They can remain in the ground for decades, safe from all scrutiny, until an opportunity to sprout, grow, and bear monstrous fruit presents itself. The emergence of a cult on one of the rogue traders' planets does not mean the dynasty head himself is a chaos worshipper. Having said that, it should be noted that Theodora von Valentius was famous for her loose interpretation of the freedoms granted by the warrant. Heinrich regards you with a probing look. A bloodline can be stained by ancestral transgressions. If it is indeed so, it is in your best interest to do whatever necessary to redeem yourself, and then perhaps you will get a chance to salvage your dynasty's reputation. I mean, I'm doing pretty good except for the Eldari I just brought on my ship. I'm sure he'll have things to say about that at some point. Lord Inquisitor mentioned in his letter that he is willing to show leniency towards my actions that would otherwise be interpreted as radical. Heinrich nods. That is correct. I should show greater tolerance for the mistakes of a newly appointed rogue trader. To be frank, I am surprised. The Lord Inquisitor is not the type to indulge the weakness of the soul and mind, even in someone who only recently accepted the burden of a lofty title. Alright, will you have spies on the Von Valentius worlds? The person I mentioned is not a spy, but a secretary in the Administratum department on Dargonus. The planet's governor and Theodora were fully aware of his status. His duty is to fulfill the sacred oaths of the Golden Throne and eliminate threats to the Imperium, which the Koronus Expanse has in abundance. His name is Yrliet Scalander. As soon as we contact Dargonus, I will introduce you as the new head of the dynasty. I'm sure you will appreciate the presence of such an advisor among your subjects, and I suggest you heed his words, at least occasionally. I want to know more about this cult of the Final Dawn. Chaos worshippers, most often agents of the throne, run into lone renegades, stirring up the rabble, insane prophets and hysterical visionaries, preaching the end of days, a passing comet, a mutant rebellion, an onslaught of monsters. Each time they come up with a new reason why people should prostrate themselves and quiver in fear. Much effort and the blood of those loyal to the Golden Throne were spent before we established the connection between these heretics. However, the cult of the Final Dawn is something greater than a gaggle of misguided seers and fortune tellers. They cleverly spread their agents all over the Koronus Expanse, disseminating heresy amongst honest people on the Imperial worlds. There is a certain strategy to their actions that changes whenever we get too close, and finally, they have enough military power to have had the 2 ships that we had sent after them later discovered as wreckage. The growing difficulty in making warp jumps is detrimental to us, but is unlikely to inconvenience those who engage in vile sorcery day in and day out. Heinrich sighs. After the events on Rykad Minoris, I suspected the cult might have built its nest inside Winterscale's domain, but the latest reports indicate it is your protectorate that is harboring heretics. Being in your entourage improves my chances of getting close to their secrets. Interesting. So he thinks their main base is amongst my protectorate. I've already agreed to give you a place aboard my ship. What else? The rogue trader should deliver me to the system that contains the industrial world of Kiava Gamma. I will then accompany you to the surface and determine what the cult is planning and how it intends to use the resources that have fallen into their clutches, which may very well include the blessed engines of the Adeptus Mechanicus and even the followers of the Omnissiah themselves. I will be frank. The answer to this question is unlikely to please either of us. The machinations of chaos usually go beyond soul-inflicting countless deaths and destruction. Having their plans come to fruition would lead to far more terrible consequences. One of the systems in the Koronus Expanse is already lost. May the Emperor protect us from watching this tragedy play out again. Why did your suspicion fall on Kiava Gamma? Disjointed pieces of data that finally merged into a single picture. Additionally, not long ago, a vessel from that world arrived on Footfall. The reports from the crew were confusing and alarming, making me fear a planet-wide rebellion. We met a Chaos Space Marine on Rykad Minoris. Do we risk running into his brothers? I have no doubt it will happen sooner or later, Ignatius. Chaos Marines siding with the cult is very, very bad news. Most likely they kept away until recently, pulling their puppet strings from a respectable distance. These traitors seldom show up alone. The best we can count on is having to deal with just a squad of Chaos Space Marines in the Koronus Expanse, and not an entire company. I won't let anyone throw their weight around on my worlds, be they servants of Chaos, Xenos, or heretics. That's enough discussion. Yeah, I won't let anyone throw their weights around their weight around on my worlds, be they servants of chaos, xenos, or heretics. A commendable aspiration for a person who holds the fates of billions of people and dozens of Imperial worlds in his hands, which is why you need to be ever more vigilant when looking for seeds of corruption on your planets, unless they sprout someday and spell doom for whatever is tangled up in their roots. That's enough discussion about the archenemy's servants. Tell me more about the Drukhari who stole Rykad's son. Heinrich winces. The Drukhari, one of the branches of the Eldari, an ancient and vicious xeno race. Those creatures are living terror and to ordinary people who fall prey to their raids, for the simple reason that the victims are not killed outright, but instead they become their playthings. Just as you and I need air to survive, the Drukhari require psychic energy born from torment and pain, which they extract from their captives with uncanny expertise. A sadistic branch of the Eldari race that revels in piracy, violence, and torture, which allows them to feed upon the psychic residue of their victims' suffering. Wow, that's brutal. Their ships, which are difficult to mistake for any other, arrive suddenly and undetected. Their stealth technologies greatly surpass the capabilities of standard Imperium auger arrays. The objective of their raids is never to capture a world or a ship. No, they are only interested in fresh victims. After filling their holds with living captives, they disappear into the webway, a different dimension which conceals their greatest stronghold, Komarog, the dark city of the Drukhari, from which none can hope to escape. Heinrich studies your expression. I do not know why the Drukhari stole Rykad's son and brought about the fulfillment of the cult's prophecies. Perhaps the Xenos themselves have played into the archenemy's designs, or perhaps Aurora's divinations in fact describe the Drukhari's actions. There is only one thing I can say with absolute certainty. There is no alliance between the cult of the Final Dawn and the Xenos. It is simply impossible. Well, I must go about my business. Is there anything else I need to know? Let me put it this way. You may think whatever you want of me, but my goal is not to hinder you. I'm here to help you in the fight against foes you may not even be aware of. You have my word that I will provide every assistance in uprooting the heresy that has sprouted on the Von Valentius worlds while their master was away, and that I will try to be more patient with the less grievous flaws of the bearers of the warrant are sometimes known to have. Heinrich inclines his head. Thank you for sparing the time, Lord Captain. Okay. Can we see the skull that we asked to have placed on our desk? That is not an Eldari skull. So I guess the skull we asked to have placed on our desk did not make it here. Well, there were other things we could have talked to Heinrichs about, so let's... Here he is. Let's continue talking to him.
To what do I owe this visit?
I want to discuss the Cult of the Final Dawn. What can you tell me about it?
The cult's ordinary members are humans who have been corrupted by the archenemy, traitors to the Imperium, and accomplices of chaos. Participation in the cult's rituals always entails brainwashing, literally and figuratively. The longer cult members spend among other cultists, the less critically they think, and the more closely they resemble obedient livestock, stripped of their fear and instinct for self-preservation. The worst of them go to their deaths without an inkling of doubt, ready to take hundreds and thousands of souls with them.
Okay.
As for those at the top of the cult's hierarchy, we have not yet managed to get a lead on all of the cult's leaders. I imagine that some of them are hiding in the depths of the Koronus Expanse, but those who are orchestrating the fanatics on nearby worlds are hiding very well indeed, or receiving protection from above.
What do you mean protection from above?
Governors, commanders, rogue traders. History is full of those who neglect their duty to the Golden Throne and seek allies in the wrong places.
You seem to have been investigating this cult for some time.
We discovered the first traces of it as soon as we arrived in the Koronus Expanse. Since then, the more we learn, the better we see just how far the roots of this blight extend. Destroying individual cells is pointless. We must cut this beast off at its head.
Yeah, you gotta find the head first, which is the hard part. And until we do that, all we can do is destroy individual cells.
As you wish.
I'm bored of Yrliet. I would like to hand the Xenos over to the Inquisition. I want the Inquisition to take care of Adira, rid me of her. I'm not going to go with either of those options. I must take my leave. Heinrich politely inclines his head in response. Alright, let's go back towards the front of the ship and talk to everyone over here. Have the Vox Spirits brought you anything interesting lately? Of course not. They never do. It's an odd option because it never has any other dialogue. Nothing from you. Ravor, anything from you? The tall man before you appears to be woven from tendons and muscle, blue veins snake under his white, almost dove-colored skin, and his scalp and chin are covered in cropped white hair. His neck and shoulders are wrapped in wires that hint at the presence of neural connectors under his uniform. The officer's face seems to be twisted in a perpetual grimace of annoyance and anger, but he greets you with a respectful nod. Lord Captain, Master Helmsman Ravor at your service. Ravor, it's come to my attention that the fuel lever on the bridge may be defective. Can you not be trusted to carry out your duties without my personal oversight? Are we aware of this? I mean, I'm going to bring it up to him. If we have an issue on the bridge, it needs to be taken care of. That's kind of a rude way of phrasing it. The officer's furrowed eyebrows draw even closer together. He speaks slowly, carefully picking his words. I most definitely can, Lord Captain. The technomats will inspect the equipment immediately. I will also deal with those in charge without delay. Do you know anything about a ship named the Fiery Reckoning? Ravor winces as if in pain. I've heard the name, that much is sure. I'm sure of, but I can't recall the details. I wonder if it was part of that operation that the late Mort was put in charge of. If it was, then there's nothing I can tell you, Lord Captain. The whole thing was kept under wraps. Your best chance would be to ask the High Factotum. Maybe some of his treasury records have mentions of this Fiery Reckoning. I will do that then. Fiery Reckoning, I think, is a ship name we read in a file we found in Theodora's room. Lord Captain, Ravor acknowledges you with a nod, and turns away. And the Fiery Reckoning mentioned that they were dropping off cargo somewhere, but I don't remember if we got any details about that.
Greetings.
Nothing new here. What about you, Cassia?
Words cannot describe how boring the bridge is without our stimulating conversations.
If only we had stimulating conversations to have, but this is where I must take my leave.
I've enjoyed your company. Thank you for the conversation.
You're welcome. Montag. Nothing there. Anyone over here? No. Then, this is where Yrliet is standing. Nothing new from you. Yrliet. Yrliet stands out from her surroundings like a Janusian jungle tree in a garden of manicured topiary, unsettling beauty and alluring otherness. In her posture, her gestures, her piercing stare radiate from the Eldari. Footfall is abuzz with rumors of xenos ravaging the sector. Do you think it could be your kin from Kudarak?
Is that snake venom seeping from your lips? We, the children of Azurian, are no strangers to the art of war. We are not raiders, or butchers, or least of all, fools. When a craft world is beset by calamity, its inhabitants do not start a war with every monkey in the sector. If you are looking for enemies, look for them elsewhere.
Okay. What happened to your homeworld?
It is a mystery as inscrutable as the sigh of the last immortal, as deep as the waters of a dark ocean. And I can tell you little, for I was far away, on a mission with my unit. We returned at the appointed hour, but we did not find Kudarak in its celestial harbor. It happened many journeys ago, or standard years, as you say. But I remember that moment as if it happened this very day. The memory of a loss is always stronger than the memory of a gain, especially when you lose something as significant as a home, or an entire world. We searched, we called out, we looked everywhere, but we saw only emptiness and the echo of calamity. Countless days passed before I found myself on the Lilithon and met some of my kin. Those refugees who had barely managed to reach our ancestral planet. Their stories were far from being the fruit of truth I so badly craved. Those who agreed to talk to me were few, for most saw me as a wayward daughter who had spurned the honorable paths. And they would not stop babbling about the terrible disease that spread black tendrils of pain over the paths of the Infinity Circuit and deadened our world one segment after another. The ones who survived fled in fear and wandered between the stars, until the Lilithon's warm light reached out to some of them.
Infinity Circuit, crystalline psychoactive matrix that supplies a well of psychic power to an Eldari craft world and provides a massive ancestral mind to advise and guide the Eldari who dwell within it. That's cool.
Some, like Muaran, lay the blame entirely on Monkey. However, I do not know the truth, but I hope, I desperately hope and pray to the gods that someday it will be revealed to me.
What is an Infinity Circuit?
Is idle curiosity a defining feature of the
Yes.
Monkey? Or are you trying to learn about the weaknesses of my people so you can destroy another world of the children of Asurion? Forgive me, Elentark, but I am not ready to immerse you in the font of my people's deepest mysteries.
Yrliet regards you with an inquisitive look. All Eldari carry these crystals, spirit stones. I want to know what they are. After she immediately comments about our idle curiosity, can you tell me about these random stones you're carrying?
You are talking about something you cannot comprehend, Elentark. Waystones are not mere trinkets worn by my people. They are something greater. From birth into the last breath, the Spirit Stone belongs only to its owner, serving as an ever-present reminder that we are mortal. For it is the first refuge of the mind and the last refuge of the soul, which Cylon Thresh is so eager to devour.
Yrliet closes her eyes and her hand inexorably reaches for the red crystal on her breast.
The souls of the children of Asurion move into the stones after death, and then they become a part of the Infinity Circuit on a craft world, so they can serve their people even when the body is gone. There is no crime more despicable than harming a waystone and dooming the immortal soul of a child of Asurion to an eternity of torment in the maw of she who thirsts.
Okay, so if they have a waystone on them, then when they die, their soul goes to the waystone and another Eldari can put it into one of these Infinity Circuits to, I guess, strengthen the... Because they said it was a psychoactive intelligence that gives advice to the ship, the craft world. So, presumably, the giant collection of all those who have died before continue to improve the craft world. And if they don't get their souls locked into a waystone, then they are, I guess, guaranteed to go to Slaanesh, who is their ancient enemy. I guess that makes it make a lot of sense why they're so important to them.
We need waystones as desperately as darkness needs starlight, and Monkey need air. And so we are bound to wander the galaxy in search of the old worlds that might give another craft world hope for existence. Each monkey's heart is one of your lives. Each waystone is the preserved soul of a child of Asurion.
Okay. What was your world like before it fell?
Krudarok cannot be described in your language. It can only be sung. Encased in a filigree of sounds, A melody as complex and delicate as the infinity circuit, its energy network. It can be seen in the golden hues of sunlight, felt in the breath of celestial winds. Though it was an artificial world, it was just as alive as any real planet.
She mentioned that Janus was also an artificial world. So does that mean it's not a real planet? I wonder what they mean, because obviously there's a difference between a craft world, which is a giant spaceship they fly around in, I think, and Janus, even though they were both described as artificial worlds.
But I must see clearly. Not only light, but also shadows. I yearn to remember only Crudarach's beauty, but it had a dark side too. My world was isolated for too long. Like a lake of stagnant water, there was no movement or renewal, and even the sweetest outbursts of life soon turned fetid. Who knows? Who knows? Had there been no stagnation, had our elders not been so blind in their dogmatism and our youths not lacking in courage, then perhaps Crudarach would still be alive even now?
Yrliet sighs heavily. So when she was talking about what the people on Janus, the other Eldari on Janus, told her about the death of Crudarach, they apparently described it as like creeping darkness that was shutting off sections of the ship. And here she's talking about that she knew of it having a dark side. You know, turning fetid, etc. I would say that whatever happened probably came from this darkness that she had sensed before she left. Where it sounds like they were too focused on just existing on their craft world and not enough focus on living. Blind to dogmatism, use lacking courage. Yeah, I don't know. So, it sounds like everyone was content to just stay as they were, stagnant. And she was one of the first to feel that she needed to leave the ship and go out and do exploring. Which made her an outcast. Probably because she didn't follow the dogmatism of they must just stay on the ship. Odd. How do your craft worlds even work?
Is idle curiosity a defining feature of the monkey?
Oh, come on.
Or are you trying to learn about the weaknesses of my people so you can destroy another world of the children of Asuryan? Forgive me, Elentark, but I am not ready to immerse you in the font of my people's deepest mysteries.
I hope in the future, when she is more comfortable with us, that these show up as new conversation topics and we can go back. Because they just show up that they're conversation topics we already talked about, but I can get more details. That would be disappointing. What can you tell me about the history of the Eldari?
I am afraid your life is too fleeting, and your memory too feeble to encompass the entirety of my knowledge. My people ruled the stars when yours did not even have a name. But many of our songs and stories were lost, stolen by she who thirsts. I can tell you the children of Asuryan lived, created, caressed the stars as if they were pearls on a string, until Cylon Thresh smothered our empire in her terrifying embrace.
So my understanding of Eldari is that they were the prime species in the galaxy, had covered significant portions of it, in the same way that mankind is now doing. But back in their time frame, they were the primary galactic species. And as they got stronger and more powerful, they eventually gave in to extreme hedonism to the point where their actions created Slaanesh as the god of hedonism. Like, they were so hedonistic and decadent to the point where their actions gave birth to a god, and that ruptured the stars, causing huge problems, created a giant chaos rift, and also just did like terrible damage to a whole bunch of their people and basically broke their empire. And that's why they're so against Slaanesh, because they were the ones that gave birth to her effectively and doomed their own empire. And Slaanesh now has a huge focus on them as well because of that.
Different branches of the Eldari chose different paths to salvation. My ancestors chose an eternal journey through the starry void, living on craft worlds instead of real planets. We rescued countless wonders from the days before, but far from all. You saw this on the Lilithon. Not even we can always master the gates our ancient ones built. This is the story of the Azuriani. There are branches that chose a different path, gruesome and frightening, but I do not wish to tell you about them. That is our dark side, just as your kin have many dark sides of their own.
After a brief pause, Yrliet adds, yeah. So it does seem that she's from one of the more good, if that term has meaning in Warhammer 40k, one of the more good Xenos Eldari branches, as opposed to the more evil branches. You keep mentioning She Who Thirsts. What can you tell me about her? We're a psyker. We have extensive training in the warp. We're familiar with the Chaos Gods. But yes, tell me what you know about Slaanesh.
Why ask this question? Is it idle curiosity, or something else? Do not turn your thoughts towards Cylon Thresh, whatever your motive. She is downfall. She is hunger. She is the enemy of all that is good in the universe. She is an enemy to the Eldari, and I hope to you as well.
Yrlet's eyes grow dark. Then Yrliet stresses the last word, looking at you inquisitively. The Chaos Gods are the enemies of the Imperium, which means they are my enemies. You can be sure of that. There's nothing wrong with curiosity, idle or not. Knowledge is always a boon, including knowledge of one's enemies. No, we just saw what knowledge of Slaanesh did to a loyal governor, destroying her place on the planet. This is my ship, which means I can question whoever I want, however I like. No, the Chaos Gods are the enemies of the Imperium, which means they are my enemies. You can be sure of that. Although arguably, Xenos are the enemies of the Imperium, which means they should be my enemy too. And we've got her on our ship, so... But yes, I'm not down with the Chaos Gods.
We are as different as starlight and its reflection in a muddy puddle. But we share a common enemy. Constancy is our strength.
Yrliet tilts her head. So, do they only... Is Slaanesh the only Chaos God that they are against? Or are they against all of them, but they especially hate Slaanesh? Because we are constantly focusing on, yeah, the Chaos Gods as a whole, all four of them, we are against. But she is only focusing on, we are against Slaanesh. So I'm unsure about that. I've learned what I wanted to know. You have my gratitude.
As you wish, Elontark.
There's so many options here. Allow me to ask you a few personal questions.
What do you wish to talk about?
Tell me about yourself. Who were you before you came to Janus?
I followed my path. Do you know what a path is to the children of Azurian? It is more than a chosen, what do you call it, craft. The path is how each of us moves through the labyrinth of existence, inside and out, in life and in spirit. It is both a journey and a fortress. It protects us from she who thirsts. To stray from the path is begs to fall into her dark embrace.
Okay. So I guess Yrliet almost chants each word full of sacred meaning, but so it seems to be that she sees it almost as a calling, something that she feels compelled as a path to follow, which by staying on the path that she feels called to, it protects her from straying into She Who Thirsts.
The first path I walked was the path of awakening. It granted me the ability not merely to look, but to see, and to take notice of what I saw. My second path could have been that of a warrior, but I chose differently. For the ability to see called me beyond the boundaries of my homeworld. Though not everyone was pleased by this decision, I stepped onto the path of the outcast. I gained the freedom to choose, to question, to doubt where the others merely bow before the wisdom of a farseer who dictates the will of destiny. And I will follow my path until I reach its pinnacle.
Okay. So do they have specific paths? Is that just what she's calling the actions that she took? Or did she... Is there something known amongst the Eldari called the Path of Awakening, of certain things and actions and whatever that she followed? Not sure exactly how literally to take these paths that she is describing. What is it like for you being on my ship?
It feels like I am in the belly of a bird with steel wings. Cold and unliving, but stubbornly blazing through the dark. It lacks life with its light and beauty, but although your vessel cannot even remotely be compared to a craft world, I feel strangely satisfied. We, the Assyriani, are born and dwell on craft worlds. To find myself on a moving world again, even one such as yours, is a source of much joy.
Okay, that's fair. I wonder how world-like their craft worlds are, because our ship, you know, has thousands of people working and tons of floors and kilometers of length and whatnot. So calling it a world seems somewhat fitting. There's people who, you know, are born, live their whole life, and die on this ship and never get off of it. This is their world to them. But I'm just wondering, like, do their craft worlds have, you know, lakes and trees and grass and, you know, are they more world-like? Don't know. Thank you for your answers.
The words of truth sound like music. This is what our people say.
Tell me about your kin and your homeworld.
I refuse to discuss this with a monkey. We are but traveling companions who happen to be following the same road among the stars. Do not even try to get under my skin. It will not work.
Immediately ask her, am I still unworthy? She's like, yeah, I just said that. What do you think is happening on Janus right now?
The Lilithon is purifying herself of the corruption brought by the servants of Cylon Thrash. Gardens and birds, animals and people. Many are gone forever, and even more are corrupted beyond healing. But the Lilithon is stronger. This world will live.
Good.
Under the watchful eye of my kin, the Lilithon could have regained her freedom, perhaps even awoken from her centuries of slumber. Could have. But now we will never know.
You destroyed the Eldari on Janus. So there probably was an option where we could have sided with them against the humans and made the Lilithon, Janus, back into what it was when the Eldari first made it. Yrliet's thin brow quivers slightly and she turns away. Would be interesting to see what a world as designed by the Eldari would have been. Why did you agree to join me? Is it not strange for Eldari to be following a human?
The outcasts my path led me to had a saying. Let me translate it for you. If you fall off a cliff, grab the roots and do not ask if they belong to a weed or a noble rosebush. You are the root I grabbed, Ilantak, because I fell off a cliff. My homeworld is gone. My kin are either dead or hiding no one knows where. By joining forces with you, I may be able to nurture a seedling of the truth I so deeply yearn for.
For a second, Yrliet's expression changes. She almost grins before continuing in earnest. Yeah, so she's probably equating us more to the weed than the rosebush, but effectively she's out of options, and so she's siding with us because it's better than nothing. But we are not the person she would have followed if she had gotten a choice, which is fine. Alright, I must take my leave. Danrock. Pleasure to see you, Lord Captain. How may I be of assistance? We were told that you might know something about that ship. But I'm not getting the option to ask. So I guess not. Alright, enough questions for now. I shall return later. I shall await your instructions, Lord Captain. Alright, Adira. Anything new? Nope.
Of course.
Cabela, anything new?
Don't. Maybe.
I was hoping people might comment further on the fact we have an Eldari.
Messiah knows all, comprehends all.
Guess not.
May your labors be effective and fruitful.
I love the synthetic voice they've given him. Obviously, it's not something I can mimic, but it's super cool. Oh yeah, Jai.
May the Exalted One protect you. Have you grown bored without our little talk, Shireen?
Argenta seems to have gotten under your skin, am I right?
Argenta? What could be more beautiful than the sight of a sister of battle, whose mere presence casts light in the dark corners of lost souls such as mine? But alas, what remains of my sanity is telling me that poor Jai can only admire the radiance of this angel, forsaking any hope of ever touching her wings.
Yeah, I don't think Argenta is going to want to get terribly close to you. I'll see you later.
Oh, I have no doubt you will.
Jai laughs and bids you farewell with a wink. Let's see, I don't think we have anyone else to talk to. No, so I think that's it for everyone on the bridge and this whole system. We have finished our work. So then the question is, where do we go now? We could go back to Footfall. To report. Let's see. I guess that quest is completed. But we could go back to Footfall to report that we got food. And we need to go back there to go through the area that was blocked off, because hopefully by now we can actually go back there. Yeah, the shadow quarters. Also need to go through the shadow quarters. What about you? This is the main quest, I think, where we need to go to Kiogama and Argonis still, our other two main worlds. What do we have here? Secrets of the Cult is going to Kiabagama. Argona for this. Oh yeah, getting a seal of official trade for Jai. Cabela wants us to go to the underdeck that I keep choosing not to do. No, everything is ready for the gathering on the officer's deck. This is that ceremony that we said we were going to do. How do I make it happen? I guess I just need to go to the officer's deck. Okay, that's probably doable. Then Yrliet wants us to go to several different locations. Forgotten Twins, somewhere in the Tenebris Aquae system. So those will show up on the map, I'm sure. Complete a development project of the highest difficulty in any colony. We'll get there eventually. That's fine. Argonis and Tiabak-Yama both have caches that we figured out. Then one of the ship's fuel levers is in a poor state. Inspect it and diagnose the problem. The technomats sent by Ravor have failed to resolve the issue. The rogue trader will have to inspect the lever himself. Okay. We'll do that before we move on. And then see if we can find that officer's... Here we go, the officer's deck. So back to our ship. Let's find our fuel lever. Come on. We were just there.